It's amazing. Almost 24 years ago exactly, I landed at DTW in the middle of the night for my move to Michigan, only to turn around a day later to hop on a plane with 80 teenagers from Temple for the Teen Mission 2000. It was a crazy thing to do, but I was young and energetic and excited to start my life as a Temple Israel rabbi, and the trip was a blast. Those teens are now in their early 40s, which is also really crazy to think about, with families of their own, some of whom are starting to think about their own teen mission trips. It was there that I was introduced to the art of knitting antique-style beaded bags. Bobby Gordon, my friend, who is also a Temple member and the mother of Rabbi Ariana Gordon, was part of the trip as a Federation representative. She was knitting her own bag, and I was intrigued. I couldn't stop watching her, and I knew I had to knit one of my own. My grandmother had taught me to knit when I was just 10 years old. I treasure the time that we spent together learning this craft, and I think of her whenever I am working on a project. I am so grateful that she taught me this skill. For me, these beaded bags are incredibly meaningful because they bring together two very precious parts of my life: my grandmother, Isenta Warshel of blessed memory, and the land of Israel. Because of this, knitting, whether with beads or yarn, connects me to both my personal and my communal heritage. So here is one of my purses that is on display in the Goodman Family Museum in our atrium. It's part of our Temple Artists exhibit, right next to Bobby Gordon's beaded bags. We have a lot of talented artists here. And on display right now, we have paintings, needle points, ritual objects, photographs, ceramics, and sculptures, all created by our Temple family. I want to describe each and every one of them to you, but obviously that's impossible in this moment. So at the Oneg, feel free to take a cookie and quietly tiptoe over to the exhibit, aware that there is a bar mitzvah in the sanctuary. They will also be there all summer long, so there will be plenty of time to see them, and we will be printing a booklet explaining the exhibit. Suffice it to say, these pieces of art are outstanding. From the painting inspired by the Kvetchi Jewish mother, to the Tree of Life painting created in the aftermath of the Tree of Life Synagogue massacre in Pittsburgh. I promise they will inspire you and touch your soul. In the meantime, let me share with you the Israel-related art. If you are feeling drawn to the Old City and you want to stand in front of the Western Wall, you might want to look at Rabbi Josh's piece that he created on his iPad entitled Western Wall 2A. He describes this piece saying, "The Kotel is the western retaining wall of the ancient temple in Jerusalem. Every Jew who visits this holy place emblazes an image of that moment onto their soul. This particular image is reflective of a winter morning when a rare snowstorm blanketed the Western Wall Plaza. The resulting light refraction produced prisms of blue and gold, blended with the green of plants growing in the cracks of the ancient stones." Irene Rabb's painting of a soldier praying at the Wailing Wall, 1967. It takes us to the same wall at a different point in time. She says, "In 1967, I stood in front of the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem, watching the steady, solemn stream of soldiers as they approached the wall to pray. They came every day and night, silent young men carrying guns almost as big as they were. I couldn't hear their prayers as they rocked back and forth, but I imagined them asking God to keep them safe, to keep them brave, and for peace. I painted this because in that moment, in that time, for the first time I could remember, I felt safe." Stephen Tapper's photograph, Notes to God, depicts yet another experience at the well. He describes it like this. In 1973, I spent time as a volunteer in Israel during the Yom Kippur War, which deepened my connection to my Jewish culture, heritage, and the state of Israel. One of the most powerful moments was standing in front of the Kotel wall, observing the notes that people from around the world had written to God and placed into every crevice with hopes, dreams, and prayers. Jewish art is an important part of Jewish religious practice, culture, and identity. Just from these few pieces, we can see how art becomes a forum for expression, connection to history, ritual life, and a way to preserve and beautify our heritage. Sure, one can make Kiddush in an ordinary cup, but a silver goblet makes it so much more meaningful. And the words of the prayer book are the same, but isn't this one with medieval art, with art from medieval illuminated texts, so much more beautiful? Even this week's Torah portion references art, for it begins with the assignments for each of the ancestral houses regarding the dismantling of the tabernacle in order for it to be moved from place to place as the Israelites wander in the wilderness. It's the Gershonites who carry the skins and tapestries, cords, and accessories, including woods and gems and precious metals, which were donated to the building and crafted into art to adorn the structure. Now, consider that this Torah portion is called naso, which means to lift up. Interestingly, when someone makes aliyah to Israel, they are considered to have gone up to a higher spiritual plane. And I believe art has the ability for us to do that too, lifting us, letting us express ourselves, find ourselves, and ultimately redeem ourselves. It's been a difficult week in Israel, to be sure. Hundreds of rockets were fired from Lebanon yesterday. The headline on my Times of Israel app reports, "Israel is burning." But this week, when the 4 hostages were rescued, it lifted us. It gave hope to Jews everywhere, hope for the hostages, and hope to end this war. An Israeli friend of mine noted that the first letter of the names of the hostages, Nun for Noah, Shin for Shlomi, and Aleph for Almog and Andre, make up the word naso, to lift up. Their redemption lifts all of us up. Similar, in a way, to Thomas Fox's piece in our exhibit, The Western Wall, 2005, made of stained glass, copper, and wood. You see, Thomas was born and raised in Budapest and survived the Holocaust, even as many of his family perished. He escaped to Israel with a group connected to Raoul Wallenberg, and Israel welcomed him. He went to college. He served in the army. Stained glass became his pastime, though for much of his life he focused on secular subjects. But as time passed, he started creating Judaica of metal and glass, menorahs and mezuzahs, and Israel seeped out of him into his artwork as a way of sharing his testimony. This piece of the Western Wall epitomizes his story. Everything he couldn't say out loud, he says here at the wall. This wall has seen us through thousands of years of celebration and sorrow, of exile and homecoming, of war and of peace. It has heard our stories and our innermost prayers. It stands as a symbol of Jewish resilience, Jewish life, and Jewish hope. As our hearts turn towards the east, I pray that we all be lifted in spirit and in faith, that our temple artists inspire and lift us to new planes of creativity and expression, and that Noah, Shlomi, Almog, and Andre be lifted by the love of their country and the Jewish people around the world, as 120 other hostage families are longing for their loved ones. And may the one who makes peace on high make peace for us, for all Israel, and for all the world. As together we say, Amen.
Amen.